make sure that you take advantage of him while he is here. And I'm going to just turn this over to Mike. Let's give a round of applause.
Well, good morning, everyone. Going to the Country Music Awards is work, by the way. The Gaylord Opryland Hotel is the host of the Country Music Awards. We also have the Grand Ole Opry and the Ryman Auditorium, so I will be going there this afternoon. So thanks for being here this morning. I want to tell you a little bit about my journey through Rowan, and hopefully you can get something out of today's, bring something away from today's presentation. How many of you are law and justice students? Okay, so we got a good amount. Okay. Well, my journey started in Camden. How many of you are from Camden? Nobody. Wow. Well, I grew up in Camden. Actually, if anyone ever heard of McGuire Projects, it's right on the Admiral Wilson Boulevard. I don't know if it's still there. It's probably boarded up by now. But with an older brother and a younger brother and a mother, and slept in the same bed till we were 18 years old. When I was a senior in high school, I had never, ever thought about going to college. Had no money, wasn't a very good high school student. The only thing I really had going for me in high school was I played sports. I really enjoyed that. But my mother came to me my junior year of high school and said, guess what? We finally bought a house. We're moving to Williamstown. I said, that's great, Mom. I'm going nowheres. So I moved out and lived in the attic of one of my best friend's home for a year and a half. He went off to college, and I was still living in his house. So that's kind of how my journey started. And the reason why I came for law and justice, first of all, how I got in this school was I had an African-American guidance counselor named Kathy Davis. And she came to me and said, listen, you need to wake up. This is your senior year. What are you going to do with yourself when you get out of high school? And where are you going to go? I said, well, I don't know. I worked as a short order cook. I worked as a dishwasher. I didn't really know what I wanted to do and didn't really believe that I could even get into college. So she told me there's a program. It was called the Martin Luther King Scholarship Program at the time. You call it something different now, right? And so she said, we're going to apply for this program for you. We think we can get you into the college. So I said, Mrs. Davis, maybe you didn't notice, I'm not an African American. And she said, that's okay. This is for underprivileged kids that can't afford to go to college from inner city areas. So I said, okay, let's give it a shot. I got accepted the program. I showed up here for the summer program. If you're in the program, the way it works, if you don't know, you have to come down here in the summertime before school starts so you can learn how to act and how to be a student. Which I just said before we started, probably the best 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of my life was that summer. There was about 150 to 200 kids on the program. There was one white kid, which was me, and everyone else was African American. It was one of the best learning experiences I ever had as a kid. One is I became a better listener. I learned how to be a minority. I learned a lot about food and music. And I learned about folks that I grew up with my whole life but never really paid close attention to because there was a lot of tension in those days back in the city that I came from. So I thought the summer program was probably the biggest turning point in my life as saying, wow, I wasted my time in high school. I wasted my time as a kid. I'm going to take great advantage of this opportunity here at Rowan. So I went from one of the worst students in high school to being one of the best students here at Rowan. I think I had my mom says it was 4.0, but I think she lies. I think it was like 3.9. But anyway, so what I thought we'd try to get out of today is that hard work it brings great success no matter how disadvantaged you are. When you look at I want to talk about many successful leaders that I work with. I would say less than 25%, and there's hundreds and hundreds of hotel schools in the country. Some of the best are the Cornells of the world, but we only have about 20 or 25% of our leaders in our company that actually went to hotel school. A lot of us have degrees and other things. I'm going to talk about some transferable leadership skills that you can use in any job that you're in, whether it's a first student that walked in, I think you said you're a biology major. He's here as a biology major. I said, oh, that's pretty cool. When I was in law and justice, I thought that's what I really wanted to do. I got into law and justice because I said, I really want to go back and help my city. But when I went back to Camden, it was too late. The city was gone. It was too late to do anything. I did an internship at the Camden Police Force, did something with juvenile delinquents down there. I did an intern at Leesburg State Prison, did an intern at Rahway State Prison. And all those internships really taught me that a little bit more respect about other people. It also taught me that don't believe everything people tell you, because if you've been to any of these jails, you'll believe that everyone's innocent, which is not true sometimes. And the thing that really, I think I was a senior, I was at Leesburg State Prison walking across the basketball court, and two guys came running up to me and said, Mike, when did you get in? And there was two kids I went to high school with, and I said, you know what, I can't be in this business recognizing people that I went to high school with, and decided that the job I had at nighttime, washing dishes at the Hyatt in Cherry Hill, was a far better path for me at the time than where I was headed in law and justice, because I just felt like, okay, I love what I'm learning. I think I can apply this to other things, but I don't want to be in the business. I want to try something else. And then we're going to talk about the job market that you're all facing. How many of you are seniors? Okay, he's got some seniors. So, it's pretty scary out there for kids getting out of college today. It's not, the job market has changed drastically. We used to make things in this country, and we don't do that much of that anymore. So I want to talk a little bit about this keys to success. So I'm going to take you through this list. So these are some things I've been writing down over the years. I said, what do I believe make managers successful? What do I believe make people successful in big business? I mean, I'm amazed at the business that I have. I run $1 billion business. We do over $1 billion in sales. In Marriott, when I joined the company 34 years ago, we had 35 hotels. Today we have over 4,000. We have 17 different brands, from Ritz-Carlton to the little courtyard down the street there. And so, I say, well, how did I get there? How did that happen? And so I look at some of the keys to success, and the first one that comes to mind is that you're a brand. Each person is his own brand. If you don't believe that, go back to high school and think about what people said about each other. She drinks too much. She smokes pot. She's loose. People had a brand starting when you were in high school. That brand carries through in college. People look at you and you are a brand. It's what you want, what you wear, what you look like, what you do, who you hang around with. And one of the most important things in business, no matter what business it is to protect your brand, to make sure that you keep the integrity around your brand, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Other people try to take it away from you, but it's key to your success. I had a conversation with David Marriott a couple weeks ago. We were talking about a guy who we were thinking about putting in a hotel as a general manager. And David said, every time I see that guy, he's got a Miller Lite in his hand. Every single time I see him, whether it's a customer event or a meeting. And what that said to me is that this guy, David's perception is he drinks too much. Now, he may not be true, but the fact is that guy has established himself as a drinker, and he's not a guy we want to put in charge of a hotel. That quickly, a decision was made that we moved on to the next candidate. So it happens all the way through your life, from high school to college to the next level, is people are always branding you. Okay, in my business, three things are equal. People talk about profitability. Well, in the hotel business, profitability comes after you take care of the employees, and then the employees take care of the customers, and then the customers take care of us making profit. If you don't do it in that order, you got big challenges. And the first one is the most important to me, is that I believe that what helped me move through my organization is that I could go down and relate to a dishwasher. I could hear and understand what was happening in his job, and I could also relate to the people that ran the company. And being able to move up and down the ladder, a hotel is a bicycle wheel. All the spokes are different departments, and every spoke is important. You start kicking out those spokes, the wheels get weak. And so it's really important that you balance yourself. We call it the balance scorecard. It's juggling three balls all the time. If you're making too much profit, somebody's getting hurt, whether it's the customer or the employee. You're not taking care of the employees, that becomes a problem. And people don't last in the business that don't take care of people. Work harder does not mean work thousands and thousands of hours. It used to mean that. I think I had my first holidays off maybe 10 years ago. So in my business, weekends is the busiest time, and people want to have off on weekends. So it's a conflict when you think about scheduling. So, but working smarter, finding ways to do things. You know, I remember using something called a day timer. Most of you probably never seen or heard of a day timer. And then we moved on to exciting creations like Blackberries, and now we got iPhone 6s. And you know, these are organizers. These are ways to help organize your life on a daily basis. But they've made us be able to work smarter, finding ways to make it easier for you and the customer. There's a button over here on the counter that says, push this yellow button for service. If I push that button, the AV guy will come through the door. That's working smarter. That's rather than I have to go down the steps and go find him. I know where he is because at the end of that button, I took a picture of that thing because I need to put those on our podiums. Okay, take jobs with significance to your company. What this means in my language is you want to be in hotels that are really, really important to your business. I was the general manager of the New York Marriott Marquis in Times Square for 12 years. That hotel is the highest grossing sales hotel in the world without a casino. And my goal was to go and run that hotel someday because I knew how significant that asset was for our company, and that if I could do a great job of running that hotel, I could just about do anything in the company. And I always tell managers, when you're looking at the job, how important is the hotel? Now, we have 4,000 hotels. Believe it or not, there are many hotels that are more important than others, especially when you look at the profit line and what they bring and generate to the company. So this goes to other businesses too. The one thing I love my law and justice time, but the one thing I didn't like the civil service part of it. I didn't like the fact that you got promoted from seniority, that you didn't earn that promotion. That was one thing that turned me off, was civil service, and one of the things that chased me to the hotel business. Okay, you don't get the best job by nominating yourself. You know, this is the conceited guy or the gal who walks up and says, hey, that's my job. I should get that job. And these are the reasons why. You get jobs because you earned those jobs, that you worked hard, you've done some significant things in your career, and you move to the next level. You don't get it by nominating yourself. We have a lot of people that nominate themselves all the time and never get elected. Okay. Be a maverick. Does anyone know what that means? What's be a maverick mean? Guys, yes, sir.
Be different than everyone else.
Be different. You know, don't accept the rules. Okay. In my hotels, there are rules that they have to follow, but rules are made to be broken and made better every single time. So come with your maverick hat on. Be respectful about the people that you work with, but don't accept average rules. Make it better. One time when I worked at the New York Marquis, we had a valet parking office on the first floor. It's on the corner of 46th and Broadway. 200,000 people a day walk by that street. But yet we're using it as an office. No revenue producing going on in there. And one of my managers came and said, hey, I read about this idea. Now you guys are gonna think this is funny. I read about this idea that people are serving coffee in coffee shops out in the West. I read it in a magazine. So we started to do some research. This is pre-internet. And we found this little company in Seattle called Starbucks. They had about 100 stores at the time. And we started to study them and asked Starbucks, hey, would you like to come to New York? We got a space to put put a little store. Starbucks told me, this is 1990, we're too small, we're not coming to New York, it's too difficult of a city to work in. That was 1990. Today, Starbucks has about 11,000 stores in New York City. The first one, by the way, is in the Marriott Marquis in Times Square with the best deal of them all because we make a ton of money. That little store is about the size of 200 square feet, does about $2.5 million in sales, the highest sales per square foot in the country. But when I took that idea to my boss, which one of my managers brought to me, my boss said, no, it's not a good idea. I said, really? So we did some research, and basically got commitment that we could put the funds together. My boss said, no, we're not going to pay for it. You have to pay for it out of operations. So typically the way you build things in the hotel business, you got to have capital money. It's not operational money. We paid for the store in 30 days. Built it, paid for it, over in 30 days. And it was because I had a Maverick working for me that was persistent that this was a great idea, and I believed in him, and we took it to that step. So now, now Starbucks, by the way, it's the only Starbucks in New York that's not operated by Starbucks. It's operated by Marriott. Be ambitious. Today, what I find when younger people come out of school is 15 minutes after they start working, they're ready to get promoted. And younger folks are anxious to move, and so be patient. It's going to happen for you. We used to have rules that you had to stay in jobs for so many months. You had to be in this job for 2 years, and we've kind of taken all those rules away because if we see a really, really talented young manager, we don't want to hold them up or lose them because of our dumb rules. So we change the rules, and so be ambitious, but be patient. This goes back to your reputation. Not only your reputation, watch what you say about people. It's truly amazing when you move through the ranks of a business where you're going to wind up seeing somebody again. I used to have this, I had a chef that worked for me in New York. Her name was Roz Harnick. She's about 4 foot tall, but she wore tall hats, so she looked taller. And she was a sous chef at the Marquis. Always challenging the chef because she felt, one, is that he didn't respect her as a female in the kitchen, which was true in those days. There wasn't very many females in the kitchen. Today, Roz is vice president of owner relations. And I told her once, I said, I'm always going to be good to you because I know you're going to be big in this company someday and I might be working for you someday. And her and I both work in the corporate office today. And, I think when you talk about people, it always comes back to haunt you. So if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say it because it does get around. You won't believe what X, Y, Z said about you. Become an expert at something in the business you're working in. I became an expert at something that I didn't even know I was an expert in until I started really working as a manager in the hotel business. When I worked as a dishwasher in the kitchen at the Hyatt in Cherry Hill, they had a really cool wine list. I knew nothing about wine. I never tasted wine. All I knew was that the labels were really cool looking. So when I worked in the dish room, I had a little steamer, and I steamed the labels off the bottles and put them in a book every night. And I would look at them, where they came from, where they were. I had still never tasted wine, didn't even have any clue wasn't interested in tasting it. I was more interested in the labels. So that was a long time ago. When I started working for Marriott, we were getting ready to put together a wine program for the company. And not a lot of people in our company knew anything about wines, but I did. Because I knew everything about those labels. I knew where they came from. I knew the difference between French wines and Italian wines and German wines and American wines. So I was tasked with the opportunity to put together a corporate list for our entire company for wine. So I had to go to Italy, France, Germany, Austria, New Zealand, California to go suffer and taste wines and find wines that would work for our company and come back and report to the company. That's taking an expertise that you have and using it to the advantage of your business. So people still rely on me 30 years later as the wine expert for the company. All I do now is drink it. Never underestimate the first impression of your supervisors or regional managers. I told you what David Marriott said about that guy with the beer can in his hand. When your district managers come around, one thing, when we walk hotels all the time, Bill Marriott walks 70, 80 hotels a year with us. And the first thing he watches when he gets out of the car is, does the general manager have to read the name tag of the employees or does he really know them? Is the kitchen as clean as the front of the house? There are snapshots that we take when we walk around our hotels that tell us whether we believe you're trying to put on the dog for us or you really know what you're doing. And you go to a hotel, the first thing Bill Marriott says, I want to make sure I don't get any paint on my jacket, because a lot of hotels paint the day before we get there. You can smell the paint. You don't want to walk around and smell the paint. So really important to make a great first impression when you have people come to visit your business. You only get one chance to make a good first impression. Read a lot of books. You know, what I try to do is I try to find books that are simple and easy to read. And the reason why is because managers don't have a lot of time to read. I said, hey, this book will take you no time to read. This is this book here. Have anyone ever seen this book? This will take you about 3 minutes to read while you're eating a cookie back there. It's called 212, The Extra Degree. Does anyone know what happens at 212? What happens at 212? Water boils. What happens at 211? Water doesn't boil, right? So it's a simple concept. But when you think about this is a leadership book. And I try to find books that I can give to my managers that they can read real simple and take away the message. I was running all the New York City hotels, including the Marriott World Trade Center, when 2 planes crashed into the World Trade Center and destroyed one of our hotels, took out another hotel, and killed 2 of my managers. The next day, we gave out a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Anybody hear of it? It's a little book, simple little book, but what happened is our cheese moved overnight. We had to find out how are we going to save the hotel business in New York City now that nobody wants to come here. And we took a 2,000-room hotel and turned 1,000 rooms into office spaces within 48 hours and turned it into an office building for 8 months until we could figure out how to get hotel guests back. That's what's called about moving your cheese. This book here, which is really cool, is there's a couple parts in here that tells you if that you just take that one little extra effort. First thing is the ladies 800-meter gold medal winner in the Olympics. The difference between the winner in the last 10 Olympics in this event is 0.13 seconds. That's it. 0.13 seconds is the difference between second place and a silver medal and no one ever heard your name again, until gold medal that you're out there on the speaking tour making money because you won a gold medal is 1.3 seconds. Another one is the Indy 500. 1.5 seconds is the difference, the average difference between first place and second place in the Indy 500. But the best news is the difference is $650,000 on how much money you won. 1.5 seconds. You know, one little extra effort makes a difference. And that's kind of what this little book talks about. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the books at the end here too. Steal great ideas. Don't be bashful to take a great idea. Just about every other idea started and sparked with someone else, some other idea. And taking that and making it better. You know, that coffee store idea was not original. Somebody saw it in a magazine, exploited it, took it further, put their commitment behind it, made it work. You know, so don't be bashful about stealing great ideas. Legally stealing them, not... Start every new job by finding out what the team needs to deliver and do it quickly. When you go into a new job, there's a book that I'm going to tell you about. It's called The First 90 Days. First 90 days on the job are the most crucial things, especially if you're a leader, is finding out what you need. My first manager's job was the assistant executive steward. I felt like a doctor because I wore a white coat, but the assistant executive steward, anybody know what that job is? You're in charge of the dish room. Okay, that was my first job. And the first thing I learned the day I walked on the job is that I didn't know how to tie a tie. I had never worn a tie. I used to wear those rip-off kind in the school ground with a little thing on it, but I never really wore a tie. So I went around and I said, wow, who am I going to embarrass myself and ask how to tie a tie? I went to the banquet managers, the handsome guy who ties a tie every day, and I asked him. And he took me in his office. He could have told everyone in the building that I was an idiot and didn't know how to tie a tie, made fun of me. Instead, he took me in front of a mirror and we practiced tying the tie. So what I did the next week was I went around to him and I said, hey, can you show me how to do the schedule? Can you show me how to do the payroll? He became what we know now in the business as a mentor. And so taking what I learned from him, doing the same thing with my own employees is, what do your people need? If, people go blind in the job after they've been there too long. So getting to the employees right away, they're honest with you. They'll tell you what's wrong. They'll tell you what's right. And if you fix those things right away, you get instant credibility. That's how you start every job, is to find out what's wrong and make the job better for the people that are working with you. You got to remember, when people work in service industry is a really, really hard job. They make a living at it, but it's not easy money. And what happens is their best part of their day is typically at work, because when you go home, you got kids and wives and husbands and bills. At work, you got camaraderie, you got a free meal, you got people who care about you, and it makes a big difference. So the better you can make people's life at work, the better their overall rounded life is. Leave a legacy in every job you do. Legacy means be known for something that you did at that business that people will talk about you in the future, say, he's the one that introduced that, or this is the person that did that. Leave some kind of legacy. Not rumors, not talking about people, but leaving legacies, good legacies that people remember you by. And this is some of the books that I was just talking about. That first one is 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. John Maxwell is his name. And this book is, if you practice, we look for people, when we interview people, we are always looking for people to practice some of these things in the interview process without even asking them any questions. Did they shake your hand? Did they look you in the eye? Did they smile? Do they really care about being here? Did they dress properly for the interview? There's a lot of things in this particular book that resonates with new people getting into business. Small little book, just like the one I held up, but very, very good book. Attitudes is everything. This guy is out of Atlanta, great guy, and he's. If you ask him how his day is, he's super fantastic day, is what he says every time you meet the guy. It blows you across the desk. But it's about attitude. People, you can tell people have bad attitudes. You can tell by their body language. You can't work in business with a bad attitude. Oh, let me go back. So, Stepping Stones to Success is another book. Getting to yes. This guy is huge in the negotiation business. He says that saying yes is very difficult to do when you're negotiating, but saying no is even harder. And his book, he has a book that says how to say no as well. It's also a great book. Love them or lose them, it's talking about employees, making sure that you really take care of the people that work for you, and they'll take care of the business that you're in. First 90 days I talked about. 4 Disciplines of Execution by Stephen Covey, very simple book. We practice it every day. Every Monday morning I have every general manager that works for me on the telephone, and we talk about what was your commitment last week to make the business better, and what happened to your scoreboard, all of your key metrics, and what are you going to do next week to make it better. And every single person in our company does that every single week. We practice the 4 Disciplines of Execution. And Show and Tell is really a book about how to make simple presentations. It's a real simple book. It's about how to make presentations, how to be able to stand in front of people and talk. And that's kind of my book read. So I'm going to open it up to questions.